We are getting live everywhere. Bear with us just a moment. Awesome. Welcome, everyone, to Catholic Owned Live. This is the show where we talk honestly about faith, work, vocation, and what it really takes to build the new Catholic economy. Today, I have a special guest with me, and I'm honored to have you with me, Bridget. Bridget Tibaldi, thank you for being my guest.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here.
Of course. Well, I'm going to read a little bit about you so everyone knows who we have with us. So, Bridget Tibaldi is a wife, mother of 5, homeschooling mother, and board certified health coach. And she specializes in spiritual somatic rewiring, which is a signature framework that combines nervous system repair, subconscious belief work, and the truth of scripture to create permanent transformation at the root level. Bridget works with entrepreneurial mothers who are building remarkable businesses and raising their children with intention, and who cannot figure out why the next level still feels out of reach despite doing everything right. Through her framework, Bridget helps women identify the subconscious wounds and nervous system patterns formed in childhood and to rewire them at the level where they actually live, which is in the body, spirit, and nervous system that's been quietly running the show. So many good things to talk about, Bridget. Um, I guess, first of all, do you want to just tell us a little bit, flesh out that description a little bit? Because I feel like that's unique and special, and there's so much more to it.
Yeah, for sure. So, again, thanks for having me here. And so, this work really came about because of a calling that I had. And I felt Our Lady nudging me. And that's literally why the business is called Loretto, based on the Litany of Loretto. Because as I was praying one day about this, I got to the point where it said cause of our joy. And it was like light bulb went off. And so, for a few years, I started working with women who experienced birth trauma. So basically, just any sort of traumatic experience around the perinatal phase. And what that led me to see is that there was so much around this idea of safety that was lacking. And it didn't matter where they gave birth, how they gave birth, modality, whatever. But whenever they felt that something was done either to them or without their permission or whatever, then there was this lack of safety. And that lack of safety led to rippling effects that still show up today until they heal it. And so after years of doing that, I really started to put the pieces together of like, oh, this is because your nervous system, which I learned about all about in college whenever I was a bio major. I have a psych minor and almost a chem major too. So it was very much science based. And so whenever I was in college and I learned all about this, but did not apply it until I really started to look at this idea of safety. And from there, it really led me on this path of figuring out like, okay, if these women aren't feeling safe, how do we get them to feel safe? And that has led to making sure that your nervous system is rewired so that it perceives safety in a situation or an environment or a tone of voice instead of danger. Because it's very cut and dry with our nervous systems. It's either you're safe and alive or you're could potentially be dead and you're in danger. So there's very much just that black and white. And so through that, I really went through this framework of learning to support women with that rewiring so that their body does feel safe. And then a little while ago, I leaned more into my entrepreneurial side because I've owned another business for 12 years now. And I just love the business side of things as well. And so I've sort of merged the two loves with the biological science part with the entrepreneurial side, the business side, and now working with women, helping their nervous systems to really calm down and to be rewired so that they can accept everything that God has put in front of them, and they might be self-sabotaging or not even realize that like what's holding them back from becoming that woman that God has created them to be.
Mhm. That's so beautiful. And I feel, one of the reasons I wanted to invite you on is because I feel like this work that you're doing with women is so important because obviously women are at least half of the Catholic economy.
Mm-hmm.
And, so many of us wear so many hats And we always had to contribute to the household in one way or another. But in this day and age, I feel like we really have to, it's all hands on deck really to survive for so many families.
Mhm.
And the work that you're doing is really helping women be able to do that in a way that is true for and good for them and their families,
Mhm.
and that aligns with our faith, as opposed to, the proverbial girl boss that we all
Oh,
just
yeah.
like totally
No.
hate. You know.
Yes. No, definitely not that.
So tell us a little bit. I would like to understand a little more about what kind of women this work helps. What, how would a woman know this is a good fit for her, or that she's experiencing these problems that you can help with?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And so I do work with men. Well, I used to work with men and women, but now because of just my love of women's hormones and women's health and everything, I really primarily just work with women because I can relate more to what a woman is experiencing than what a man is experiencing. And so this work is not just for women, it truly is for men as well. But again, I mostly just steer towards the women's side of things because it's a little bit more complex. And again, I can relate more to it because of the different hormone shifts and life stages and everything like that. But this work is whatever life stage you're in, it doesn't matter. It's going to be so, so important to literally every single person. And so I know we'll talk about it later on, but I have a summer program running right now. And I literally I have a woman in there who's in her, I believe it's 20s or early 30s. And then I have somebody in there who is post retirement age, who she felt the Lord calling her back out to create her own business in retirement. And so truly, whenever you do this work, it not only is going to change your business, but it's also going to change your relationships. It's going to change your health. It's going to change so much in your life, literally everything in your life. And so to know if this is for you, if you're like, Bridget, I need more specific things, what this can look like is because you're in business, you have to do some sort of transaction, right? Because charity is amazing and obviously so needed and necessary. However, charity cannot exist if business does not exist, right? Because in order to be able to give, we have to have something to give. And even like if you're like, that doesn't necessarily make sense, think back a while ago. Like my kids and I are reading this Pioneer book for school, and they're talking about how they didn't use money back then, but they still traded goods. So they would trade like what was it, raccoon like furs in exchange for flour. And that is still a business exchange. So even though we're not trading currency or coin, it still is trading something for this thing. And only when that happens can you give something to somebody else who doesn't have anything to trade. You can also think about it like a farmer grows the wheat or the corn, whatever, some sort of crop, and the baker asks the farmer, "Hey, I need this crop. Can you hand me some or give me some?" And the farmer says, "Sure." It's either going to be this price or whatever the terms are. Or in exchange, the farmer says, "If you give me this, then I'll give you this many loaves of bread back." And so that is even a business transaction. And so again, if you are struggling with this idea of like, does God want me here? I know I should be charitable. I know I need to give money, but whatever it comes to mind, again, this work is for you. Because once you can really understand that business is the foundation of charity, that is everything in our faith, right? Then that is going to be so, so important. And then it also shows up if you are, again, like underpricing your services or your products. Because that, if you look at the catechism, it literally talks about a fair wage. And if you are not bringing in a fair wage to support you and your family, and then to give to the causes that you want to give to, then again, that's actually going against what the catechism says. As an example, I have a client, she and her husband own a business. They bring in over 6 figures. It's a construction business, but her take home is only about 6% because they think that they're being really helpful by giving people jobs who are not necessarily super honest and who are really exploiting them and their customers. And what that's doing is, yes, it's creating a business that isn't necessarily super honest with others, but it's also not allowing her and her husband to bring home enough to support their family in a way that God's calling them to. And so if you're only bringing in 50 or 60,000, but your business is grossing over $1 million, and you have 9 children to feed, and you have a farm to take care of, like, it simply isn't going to work. And so again, anybody who has a business who is struggling with undercharging, over delivering, just anything where it feels like you have to work and strive so much harder, and then you almost get like resentful, then this is for you. It also is, again, this is going to help with your health. This is going to help with your relationships, with your relationship with Christ. Like it literally affects every single thing in your life.
It's such an important conversation too. I feel like so many of the businesses we serve at Catholic Owned, I find myself telling them often, especially as we are rolling out our marketplace later this month, telling the merchants, you're here to make money. We want every transaction on our platform to be profitable for your business,
Mm-hmm.
and telling ourselves the same thing of, we cannot be generous with something we don't have, right?
Yeah.
And I think systemically across the whole Catholic Academy, it's very common to undercharge, whether that be their physical products or services. The intention of giving people a break is a noble intention. We want to help each other. And I know we've spoken about this. I've written about this, that what that has sort of created is this expectation of discounts on the buyer side.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, it's not helping anybody. It's not true charity. No. And we kind of have to reverse, retrain, rewire. I love your word, rewire, those belief systems around money and around revenue and, profitability as the sort of driving force behind charity.
Yeah, for sure.
And
with that in mind, I've spoken to so many women, and I don't want to say this is every single person, but so many women and men think that they almost have to be like St. Francis of Assisi, where it's like throw everything away, like give everything away, and just literally have people bring you, like, beg for goods, and just be totally content with wearing, like, essentially nothing. Right? And some people are definitely called to that, like, for sure. And that's such a beautiful vocation if that's what God's calling you to. However, if God is not calling you to that, and most of us are probably not actually called to that, because again, we need people to build the church, literally and figuratively. And so most people are not called to that. And so if you're trying to live your life like that, and that's not your true vocation, that's not God actually saying, like, I want you to give up literally every single thing, possession, and own nothing. Obviously, everything is his, and we surrender everything to him. But not all of us are called to that extreme poverty. But it feels like that's the only path to holiness. When in reality, if we look at so many other saints, they had huge dowries, or they had huge net worths, or however you want to say it. And yet they were still able to, yes, give it all to God, but use that for his good. And so, yeah, it's really something that's one of those programs that we get in our minds whenever we're little, for better or for worse. Usually it's unintentional, where we hear, like, it might not be what it said explicitly, but we hear, if you make a lot of money, you're going to be bad. When in reality, if you are good without a lot of money, you're going to be a good person with a lot of money. You're just going to be able to do even more. Versus if you're a bad person when you don't have any money, you're going to probably be not a nice person when you do have a lot of money. When you can really start to get that in your head and release that guilt, because guilt and shame are very different. When you can release that guilt, and again, still surrender everything up to Christ, but release the guilt around having things and having material wealth, and also still using it for good, then that's whenever you really start to shift your thinking about business, which then also is going to help you shift other people's thinking about business, like your clients, the people that you serve. And that's what's really going to change the Catholic economy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that, I'm so with you that there's this sort of idea somehow baked into the cake that poverty is the only path to holiness. And something I learned that was really interesting, that even not even all priests and religious are called to or required
Yeah,
to take vows of poverty.
I know. Isn't that wild?
So, for example, a parish priest does not
Yes.
take a vow of poverty, and I'm not by any means saying they should, um, but it just goes to show that poverty is for some is a calling, as you said,
Yeah.
but it is not the only way. And I love how you referenced, attempting to live out something that you're not called to is like a path to disaster. You
Yeah.
whether it be, forcing yourself into and your children into poverty when that's not your
Mhm.
calling, or forcing yourself to be a stay-at-home mom
Yeah.
only, and you have these other gifts and you feel called to use them to generate income for your family, but you're saying no, it doesn't fit in this box,
Yeah.
so I'm going to reject that calling. um, and anything in between. So I love that you touched on that. Another piece of this for me that I really like to focus on when we're talking about, setting prices and pricing expectations and all of that, is in regards to human dignity.
Yes.
So economically, of course, when we're expecting discounts and we're underpricing ourselves, we're decreasing the collective value of the Catholic economy, which is literal suicide for a community. So we can't be doing that. But while that desire to underprice comes from a good place, it is also fundamentally undervaluing the human dignity of the workers, and of yourself. Um,
Hmm.
so I'd love to hear your thoughts on the human dignity side of this whole conversation.
Yeah, sure. So my first thought whenever you said that is that I usually talk about this with ambition, but I think it relates to this as well with pricing. So I actually just released a podcast episode about this, I think last week, about like holy ambition versus disordered ambition. And so many people are running their businesses and their lives from this place of like a disordered ambition. And what that looks like is ambition that is rooted in a wound. And those wounds are what you read in the bio, where these are different wounds that we experienced whenever we were children, and they're continuing to show up now as we are adults. And so if you are doing anything out of that wounded place, that is not what God wants you to do. Like, that's literally not what he's asking you, because that is you trying, this is where the nervous system comes in. That is you trying to keep yourself safe from a perceived danger based off of past perceived experiences. And so if you learned again that money doesn't grow on trees, or like we don't live in a barn, close the door, then you likely associated that with like money is scarce. Money is never gonna be enough. Whatever it is for you. Everybody's different. Everybody has different perceptions and experiences. And whatever your body, your nervous system took in, it's going to then live that out in how you price and even that ambition. Versus if you're doing everything from a rightly ordered space where it's not running this program that you learned whenever you were a child in order to stay safe. It's running from a healed place. You know that God is like, this brings so much peace, this brings so much clarity. That's going to be a totally different like scenario, pricing wise, ambition wise, running your business wise, than if you were doing this from a place of that wound. And most people don't realize that they are doing these things from that place of that wound. And it's a normal human thing to do this. It's literally how God created us, because we are in that animal species, right? And so, or genus, whatever it is, I forget. and and because we are those animals, we again were made to survive and to not get eaten, right? And very much simplifying, obviously, we have souls and we're much more complex than what we think of as traditional animals. But that's literally how we are wired. And so 95% of what we do is run off of the nervous system programming that we learned when we were children. And moms will know this, that whenever your babies are little, they have immature nervous systems, which is why you have to be careful with certain things and why they want to be around you all the time, why they want to be touching you and things like that. Those immature nervous systems continue to be immature until around the age of 10. And you're still learning everything that you know until the age of 10, and you're imprinting off of that. And what you learned before the age of 10 is, again, 95% of what's running the show for you right now, in life, in business, relationships, in your health, everything. 5% is only your cognitive brain. Okay, your cognitive brain is the thinking brain. This is what really differentiates us, right? Again, very much simplifying. We have souls and everything, but you know what I mean. And so this cognitive brain is the one that's saying, okay, rationally, I need my price to be X. And if my price is X, then I can do whatever. But your body is saying, like, but if I charge X, then that means that I'm going to be labeled as somebody who's not charitable. Or if I'm not giving 10% of my income, then that means that I'm not going to be charitable. And then therefore I won't be able to go to heaven, or I'll have to spend so much time in purgatory. Logically, you know the answer, but your body is like, nope, we can't do that. And so until it's rewired, that 5%, that cognitive side, is never, ever, ever going to outmath the 95% that's running the show. Does that make sense? Hopefully.
It does. It really, really does. Well, and it also reminds me of one thing I heard and I learned in the early years of motherhood, that, and you know, I mean, I have a wonderful family. I had a wonderful childhood, all of those things.
Yeah.
But that there's a lot of healing we can do in mothering our own children.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, if, you know, X or Y or Z happened, we can sort of, you know, do the opposite for our own. And there's a healing inside as a result of that.
Yes, for sure.
You know, there's so much beauty that we can, and healing that can be done when we're encountering those situations. But it's so important to have a guide to help us identify, because it's not natural or easy to identify, you know, okay, here's where this is connected to this incident.
Yes, for sure.
And now here's how to fix it. So that's obviously where your work comes in.
Yes. And you brought up a really great point with, like, that you have a really great family and upbringing. Again, that is the point, is not that, like, if you had a great family, then that means that, like, everything's perfect and, like, you're good. The fact of the matter is that we are fallen people in a fallen world. And so even if your parents or your whoever raised you was, like, the best, most caring, most loving, something that they did unintentionally, you perceived likely to be like a negative. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative, but your perception of it was negative, whether that be from the enemy whispering, the world telling you that, whatever. And so that's one of the biggest things too, is that nobody necessarily has done anything wrong to inflict these wounds upon you. It's just, again, we're fallen people in a fallen world, and they don't have to just be from your parents. They can be from a coach who told you that you were too short to play basketball. They were, or like that you weren't fast enough to be on the track team. And then you took that in, and now you're like, well, I either have to, it can usually go both ways, where it's like, well, I have to be the fastest, so therefore I'm going to work really, really hard. And that translates then to business of, like, if I stop working, then therefore I'm not going to be good enough. Or it can go the opposite and be like, well, why even bother? Like, why do I even try? And again, one experience can relate to literally everything in your life, whether it's business, health, relationships, relationship with God, whatever. And so really just wanted to hammer that in, where it's like, everybody has these experiences. It doesn't mean that anybody in your family was bad. It doesn't mean that anything was, like, dangerous or whatever. It just means that we are fallen people in a fallen world. And I know that, unfortunately, I am afflicting some of my kids with these wounds unintentionally, right? And we do what we can. I pray every single day that, like, Mother Mary comes and puts, like, that beautiful gold paint on the crack that I accidentally made, and always trying to be better. But the fact of the matter is that on this side of heaven, we're not going to be perfect. And It's not an excuse, but it's just, when you can understand that, you can have compassion for yourself and for others. And that's where you really start to see them as the person that, how Christ sees them. And then that shifts everything in terms of relationships and business as well.
Well, and I love how because in a certain sense, it almost gives us a little bit of grace when we're
Yes,
on the mother side, right?
for sure.
Even if we do everything 100% perfect, there are still going to be issues that our children have. Because it's so easy to get caught up in all of the mom guilt, right?
Yes.
And, when you know better, you do better. And, like, yes, that's true. And I am so, like, obsessed with just being, like, the best mom to the kids. But also because we are fallen, we know for a fact it will never be perfect.
Yeah.
So that was really comforting when you said, even if everything was perfect, like inadvertently things happen, and even just down to how it's perceived by that child's nervous system can cause issues.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Mhm.
It's
It
okay.
is. Again, it's not an excuse to not try, but it's okay. Like God knows it all. And as long as, again, he doesn't seek perfection, he just seeks faithfulness.
Well, wonderful, Bridget. Thank you so much. I do want to touch on your program over the summer. So, folks, if this has resonated with you, Bridget has a program. It just started yesterday, but it's not too late to join, right?
Nope.
It's called the Summer of Expansion, and this is for the founder whose ambition has outpaced her nervous system's current capacity. Can you give us a quick overview of the program and who this is really a great fit for over the summer?
Yeah, for sure. This is for the woman who has already built something so incredible and so beautiful, but it's like, man, it just feels like kind of a sludge uphill, or like you're just stuck at this certain monthly revenue and you cannot figure out how to get it higher. Not because, again, you're greedy or you want all these worldly things, but you're like, I know that it should, like, God's calling me to more, right? And like you're using strategies that do work really well, but for some reason it's not working for you right now, even though you're doing all the things. And so that's really what we're getting into, is why your body's reading these things as a threat, and how to even know that your body's reading these different things as a threat. And these can be visibility, these can be having conversations with people, whatever it is. And then we're going to really look at the message that God has put inside of you that nobody else can give. I hear this all the time from especially my Catholic clients, where they say, like, why would anybody choose me? Like, my business is small. Why would anybody choose me when they could have this other person who has this big business? And it truly comes down to, because nobody else is you. Nobody else has gone through what you have gone through. And as an example of that, like, I have horses. I live on a farm. I work with clients who they love that I have horses and that I live on a farm, because it's like either they had horses growing up or they wanted horses growing, or they can really relate to that. Or even like the homeschooling thing. Like, we have 5 kids that we have at home. We homeschool, and we live on a farm. We have another farm business. Like, so they like, this is interesting for them. And some people, they won't like it, and that's okay. Like, it doesn't have to be everybody's cup of tea. But really, it's about getting to the point of understanding what's holding you back. And again, helping you to see what those patterns are in your nervous system, so that you can really start to heal those wounds and step into that category of 1, whatever that means for you. Because God is wanting you to be a category of 1. You just have to figure out why you keep going quiet, why you keep underpricing, why you keep self-sabotaging, even if it is in like a really sneaky way.
I think that's so important. And especially for, the solopreneurs, the smaller business owners, where the identity and the business are so closely tied.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So for Summer of Expansion, what is it looking like in terms of what can they expect on a week-to-week basis? I know it's an 8-week program.
Yep. Yeah. So like we just had our first call yesterday and it was wonderful. It's a small group intentionally so that we only have people in there who are really good fits. So these are women who have established businesses. Like one of them is a 7-figure founder. Other ones are in the 6 figures. Not that that matters necessarily, but we really want people in there who are established and who already know how to run a business. Like things are going well. They just need extra help in order to get to that next level that God's calling them to. And so, again, we really are going to go through everything from the very basics of like, what is the inconsistency? What does the self sabotaging look like? Why hiding is not actually humility, like, how that's actually a sin of pride and like vainglory and things like that. And how the story that God has put on your heart is not actually about you, it's about glorifying Him. And then why God put you here and what your nervous system understands as safe versus not safe, how to really show up in every single room that you're in. Again, not because you are this prideful person who's like trying to be all out there, but really because you are showing up differently because you understand that God has put this voice into you. You can be authentically you. And that's going to, just because of God's grace, bring people into or closer in relationship with Him. And then we're going to finally close with like why every single schedule that you've made is collapsed, and then why you came in capped at that threshold. And then you're going to leave being able to really move towards that next level that God's calling you to.
Wonderful. And I was just grabbing the link here where people can go to get started if this sounds like a good fit. LorettaWellness.com/products. And you can see Summer of Expansion is here. Your website is so awesome, Bridget. It's I'm just going to put it in the chat in a couple of the places where we are. Yeah, LorettaWellness.com, and click on products and get started there. And then, of course, I want to make sure people know you're on Instagram.
Yeah.
You're on LinkedIn as well. I love to chat with you over there as well.
Mostly Instagram, LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel that I don't do too much with, but there's videos and podcasts there. And then check out the podcast too, The Discerning Mother. So
The Discerning Mother podcast. Yes, absolutely. You've done a lot of episodes over there, haven't you?
I have, yes. I have actually, this is where I'm going to say I was really proud of myself because I have not missed a week in 70 weeks. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, that'd be 70 weeks. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. And just all glory to God because I was very reluctant to start it because I didn't think that I could do it, but I did. So
that's amazing. What an accomplishment. 70 weeks. That's great. Oh, well, good. Well, thank you so much for being my guest, Bridget. This was so fun. And I just love helping to get the word out about this work that, I think so many people need, but it can be kind of hard to identify when you need it, and all of that. So I just love getting this information out there.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me and for having Catholic Owned. It's been great to be here and to do the networking and to just meet other owners and founders who have the same values. It's been really, really wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, Bridget's been a longtime member of Catholic Owned, of course. So just honored to have you in the community and to be taking this next step with the new app coming out at the end of the month and just keep on growing and serving amazing people like you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Of course. Well, thank you guys for joining us. This has been Catholic Owned Live, the show where we talk honestly about faith, work, vocation, and what it really takes to build the new Catholic economy. I'm your host, Brooke Joyner, and my guest today has been Bridget Tibaldi, the owner of Loretta Wellness. I will be back here on Friday for Founder Friday, so I hope you'll join me then. Until then, God bless you, and we will see you soon.